Hello my friends, and welcome back. Today's biggest story comes from the Baltic States, where a major geopolitical shift is now unfolding. The government of Latvia has taken one of its most decisive steps yet to protect national sovereignty and send a clear signal to Moscow, ordering the mass expulsion of Russian citizens who failed to comply with new language and security checks. This is not just a bureaucratic measure, it's a bold political and security move that underscores how real the threat of Russian aggression has become for the Baltics. Section 1. The expulsions. Latvia has given 841 Russian nationals a formal deadline to leave the country. Those who fail to depart will face the loss of basic services, banking access, and possibly forced deportation. This follows an earlier law that already banned Russian citizens from purchasing property, a safeguard aimed at stopping Moscow-linked individuals from quietly buying influence through real estate. In practice, these new measures cut off numerous access points, property ownership, rental agreements, local voting rolls, and even financial systems that had allowed Russian-linked actors to operate inside Latvia with minimal oversight. At the administrative level, this is also a major stress test for the country's institutions. The speed at which local registries, police, and courts can process checks, close loopholes, and handle appeals will determine whether this law becomes a strong national security shield or turns into a bureaucratic nightmare with humanitarian consequences. Section 2. Historical context and security concerns. To understand why this matters so much, we have to look back at history. Under Soviet rule, Moscow deliberately moved large numbers of ethnic Russians into the Baltic republics to alter local demographics. Today, some of those same communities remain majority Russian-speaking, precisely the populations that the Kremlin now claims it must protect. Doing nothing, officials say, would be far riskier. As Ukraine's experience shows, Russia can always fabricate a pretext for invasion. Closing every legal and economic loophole, Latvia has now requested NATO's F-35 stealth fighters to patrol and secure its airspace, a direct signal to Moscow that any further provocations will not go unanswered. Conclusion. Laws expelling non-compliant residents and requesting stronger NATO protection, they are sending a unified message. Their sovereignty is not negotiable. It's a risky move, one that could provoke more Russian propaganda, but it also closes the very channels through which Moscow once operated quietly inside their borders. If you stand against the invasion of Ukraine and want to support independent reporting on stories like this, please consider subscribing to our own news website. There, you'll find exclusive strategic insights, comprehensive frontline overviews, and regular tactical analysis videos. Your support not only helps sustain this channel but also strengthens the voice of independent journalism in times of global tension. Thank you for watching, and as always, stay informed, stay critical, and stay safe. It's the same playbook used in the Donbas and Crimea. Because of that, Baltic governments treat migration and residency rules as matters of national security, not mere paperwork. For them, every unchecked loophole is a potential opening for Russian infiltration or a future excuse for military intervention. Section 3. Recent provocations and NATO's response. What pushed this issue into the open was a serious escalation last month. On September 19th, 3 Russian MiG-31 fighter jets entered Estonian airspace for roughly 12 minutes before being intercepted by NATO aircraft. That breach prompted Estonia to invoke NATO's Article 4, a rare diplomatic mechanism signaling concern across the alliance. Even if it doesn't call for direct action, what made matters worse was Moscow's response. A Russian diplomat admitted the flights were deliberate, claiming they were a response to Ukrainian strikes in Crimea. That statement hardened public opinion across the Baltics. Soon after, Russian state media began referring to Baltic capitals using imperial-era names, calling Estonia the Estland province or governorate, terminology that effectively denies their sovereignty. This kind of rhetoric mirrors the early stages of Russia's narrative building before previous invasions. It normalizes the idea that the post-Soviet borders are negotiable, exactly the narrative the Baltic governments fear most. Section 4. The strategic trade-off. Of course, these expulsions have real human cost. Many affected individuals lose their housing, jobs, and access to basic services. Businesses are also impacted, but the Latvian government argues that those being expelled were given ample time to meet new requirements. They had the chance to take the language and security test, and only those who refused to comply are now being removed.